my number one pass rusher in the 2021 NFL draft. And this is all about preference. You know, for some, it's Kwity Paye. For others, it's Gregory Rousseau. I've even seen a few with Azeez Ojulari as their number one guy, which I don't know how. But for me, the most natural pass rusher coupled with the most skill at this point. I'm not telling you that Jaelan Phillips has the greatest upside. I think Gregory Rousseau and Joe Tryon and Kwity Paye are guys with more upside than Jaelan Phillips as of right now. But if you're talking about a guy that can come into the league right away and get you 8.5 in his rookie season, you're talking about Jaelan Phillips. And I think there's a lot here to this kid. And I'm going to explain why he's my number one pass rusher as I flip over his card and we take a look. Size and length are his first strengths for me. You're talking about a 6'5 guy, 258. You know, it's crazy because Rousseau looks more like he's 270 than he does 260. Jaelan Phillips looks more like he's 250 than he is 260. He moves like a 245 pounder, but he's 260. And he's 6'5", and he's got the length that you're looking for. And he's got, you know, the pass rush skills, the size, everything that we just talked about with Rousseau in a much more fluid and a much more advanced package in terms of know-how. This isn't a guy that came to school to be a safety and a quarterback. He came to bag quarterbacks. So you can see that. He's been practicing his rush moves his entire life. So he knows how to get to the quarterback. Athleticism and fluidity. I talked about Joe Tryon and how fluid he is and how those guys just look different. They're graceful. They can turn the corner with ease. When they spin, it looks like Dwight Freeney, Poetry in Motion, when they spin. It doesn't look like a three-part move where it's plant, turn, and then hook and try to turn and seal. It looks like one fluid motion. Sort of like when a basketball player that you can tell is just fluid and he spins, you're like, man, that's beautiful. But when a dude does it that shouldn't be spinning, it looks like he just traveled. And the guy that spins with fluidity, he traveled too. But guess what? His shit looks so smooth, you forgot that he traveled. You ignored the fact that he traveled. The guy that's choppy, that spins, that shouldn't be spinning, oh, you counted his steps. He took 4. You're like, man, that's a travel, man. That's steps. Ball, man. I'm calling ball on that. Give it up. You don't have to worry about that with Jaelan Phillips, man. It's fluid, man. The fluidity is off the charts. So is the athleticism. Quickness plus disruptor in the run game. So he's a guy that can impact the game, not just as a pass rusher, but he can also impact the game as a run defender. He knifes into the backfield. He has an understanding of what they're trying to do. And so there's a really good sense of a guy understanding leverage, understanding how to attack this blocker and still be viable in making a play, how to attack angles, what the offense is trying to do on this particular run. I watched it on film. I'm going to shoot the gap and make a tackle for loss. Or you're running a jet sweep here. I'm going to get up the field and cut off this second handoff or this quick handoff. You're running a reverse to my side. Stay at home. Now track it backside. Gotcha. He's a disruptor. And his quickness is what allows him to get into the backfield and play on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Stout at the point of attack. This is a guy that holds the point of attack well. Talked about the length, just like I did with Gregory Rousseau. Has the ability to stand up blockers and be physical with them at the point of attack, fit his gaps properly, and do his job. Could he do a better job of shedding blockers? Absolutely. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. But he is a guy that's stout at the point of attack. Robust tool belt and hand usage. So this guy, as I mentioned, similar to when I talked about Quincy Roche, these are guys that come into the league ready to go out of the packaging. No assembly necessary in terms of a tool belt. They come out of the package ready to put a bevy of moves on NFL tackles to try to get to the quarterback. And unlike Roche, who's 6'3", 240, 243, whatever it is, and doesn't have long arms or no discernible traits, this guy's 6'5", I'm guessing 33.5-inch arms, and a level of quickness and fluidity that makes him stand out. And he's got the crossover that's scary. He's got a spin move that's nasty, okay? Could use a little bit more work, but I see the potential in it. It's fluid. It's easy. He knows how to use it. Just a little bit more work with that, and that thing's going to be lethal. And then he's got STP, speed to power. So right there, you've got three things he can work with, not to mention he's got a speed rush that I think needs a lot of work. Imagine if that comes to fruition and he adds a legitimate speed rush to speed to power, to a crossover that's deadly right now, maybe his best move to this point, and a spin that is on the come. Okay, that spin move is A1 and has a chance to be dangerous. So the tool belt is robust. He's ready to go. Hand usage, again, to me, if you want to coach up a pass rusher and have him be ready to do battle at the next level, I wouldn't worry so much about, speed to power and speed rush, spins and all that. And that's great. The first thing I would teach them is how to be technical inside with the hands. Because the hands are half the battle. Tackles want to get their hands on you. That's why when tackles practice, the first thing that they're practicing on is their punch. How to switch it up, not be predictable. Because they need to get their hands on you first to knock you off balance. That's why when you see tackles come out of their stance, they've got their hands in a ready position, ready to fire. The hands are the key. If you can win the hand-fighting battle, you can win the war. He's got the hand usage down to a science, and that's something that he uses to help him win and get not only to the quarterback, but to the running back as well. For a 6'5" guy, this is rare, but he can bend the corner, okay? That, to me, is one of those traits that caught me off guard when I turned on the tape. Not many 6 guys are able to bend. Usually bending is reserved for the 6'3" guy, the 6'2" guy. That's his calling card. He's already got a lower center of gravity, and then he can bend the corner. But when you see a guy like DeMarcus Ware, who's 6'4", or a Robert Quinn that's 6'3", 6'4", closer to 6'4", and these guys are bending, that's when it gets dangerous, okay? And he's 6'5", and he's bending the corner. That's scary. Relentlessness and motor. He's got a relentlessness to him, again, that is infectious, that you love to see, that you want guys to have. Again, that's not a skill. That's just want to. It's something that you don't have to be born with. It's sort of like rebounding. It's a want to. Yeah, rebounding can become a skill. Dennis Rodman and Ben Wallace, they mastered the art of rebounding. Angles and where the ball is going to come off the glass and off the rim. But really, rebounding is all about want to. You want 10 rebounds, you can get 10 rebounds. You're 6'10", you should come down with 10 rebounds. But if you don't want to rebound, you're not going to average 10 rebounds a game. Same thing with motor. You can try hard. You can run around. You can not give up on a play. You can be relentless if you want to, or not. And look, I'm not saying on every play they're running away from you. You don't have any chance. That's when you're supposed to catch a blow. You know, there are plays where you understand there's nothing I can do here. But you also there has to also be that filter to be able to understand when and where to turn it off and when to have it on. And most of these guys that I've talked about tonight have that motor and they turn it off. Some guys don't have an off switch. Versatility. The versatility with him is, this is the thing. You can line him up in a bevy of rush alignments, 2-point stance, hand in the dirt. You can line him up, kick him inside, reduce his split. You can do a lot of things with him from a rush alignment standpoint. They did that at Miami. I thought they utilized him beautifully and kept the defense guessing as to where he was going to line up and how he was going to rush. That also lends itself to scheme because I think he can be scheme diverse. For a 6'5" guy, I think he could actually line up in a 2-point stance and be a 3-4 outside linebacker. I think he's fully capable. I think he's probably more natural in a 2-point stance. I think he feels more comfortable rushing from a 2-point stance, believe it or not. But I think that teams are going to look at this kid and say he's a base 4-3 defensive end. That's fine too. He's comfortable in that realm and in that world as well. So I think there is versatility here with Jaelan Phillips. So all of those things are lovely. Here's the reason. We get to his weaknesses, and here's the reason that people may not have him number one, and I don't blame them for this, okay? These are some legitimate questions, and one of these questions you don't ever want to have. The fact that we're talking about it, even if it's not a real thing, which it is, because it's been confirmed from his own mouth. Those things scare you. And when you're spending a first-round pick on a guy, the last thing I want to hear about is he thought about quitting and lost his love for the game. When we start talking about, I don't have the passion, I don't know if I want to play anymore, I want guys that can't live without the game, that they're dying, chomping at the bit to get on the field. I don't want a guy that when shit gets rough, he gets an injury, he starts to question himself, he gets off to a slow start in his career, and it's not fun anymore for him, he thinks about quitting. That's scary for me. That might be scary for some teams. I don't blame them. Sorry, I get it. And that could easily drop Jaelan Phillips from a top 15 prospect to a top back into the first half of the first, or back into the first round type of talent where he slides down the board a bit. Because again, look, let's go to these weaknesses. Dealt with injuries at UCLA, okay? And his numbers really didn't reflect the talent that he showed at Miami. And he was a highly sought-after recruit when he landed at UCLA. And UCLA thought they were getting a stud. And what they ultimately got was a dud that questioned whether he loved playing a game of football anymore. He had ankle injuries, he had a wrist injury, and he had issues with concussions. So he dealt with some injuries. His time at UCLA was marred by injuries and lack of production. And you're talking about a guy that in 2 years at UCLA had 8 tackles for loss and 4.5 sacks in 2 years and only played in 11 games. And it was those injuries coupled with the lack of production, coupled with reduced playing time, that takes me to my next weakness, and the one that if I was an evaluator, I would have a problem with. All right. Question for the love of the game. Jaelan Phillips told people, I didn't know if I loved playing football anymore. When I was at UCLA, I thought about quitting. It wasn't fun anymore. That's scary. And I get the context in which he was saying it. When you're a highly sought after recruit, you get to campus, much is expected of you. To whom much is given, much is expected. He's got all this talent, highly recruited. You get on campus and you start getting injured. Your playing time then is reduced, and now you're a shell of what you were supposed to be. How do you take that? Do you grit your teeth? Do you bite down and you overcome adversity? Or do you succumb to it? Do you go into a corner, hide, and quit? He was close to the latter. That's scary. Because I just gave you an example of what could happen in the NFL on his rookie contract. He could get to year 3, had a rough first season, marred by injuries. Year 2, he's healthy, but he's not playing up to the level, and now he's seeing his snaps reduced. Are you going to quit? I don't know. I remember another guy that had these same questions. He was not anywhere near as talented as Jaelan Phillips, but the same questions about his love for the game. And Chad Thomas, former 3rd round pick, I believe, of the Cleveland Browns. And his thing was music. This guy loves music. He's a musical savant. We question how much he loves football. Does he love music more than he loves football? Browns took him in the 3rd round. He played 1 season and decided, man, I want to do music. Got me my cool, $1 million or so on a signing bonus on my rookie deal. I'm good. I'm going to take this money, open me up a record studio, and I'm going to go do music. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. They're not the same guy. That just worries me. And if somebody said, he's not even on my board in the 1st round, I get it. Totally understand. Speed rush needs work. I think it's amazing that he's got all these moves, and the one that's kind of lacking is his speed rush. He gets better at that. He's got something here. The next weakness is can do a better job of shedding. I think there are too many times that he's engaged in a block and I feel like he can make a tackle and he just doesn't. Guy runs right by him. I'm like, dude, you couldn't stick out a paw, get a piece? You couldn't toss that tight end aside and make the tackle? Dude, you're better than that. I know you're capable. What is that? That's bullshit. So, all in all, the talent suggested he's a top 15 talent in this draft. I'd take him in the top 15. If we're just strictly going off of talent, he's one of those dudes that I would have to vet thoroughly. Talk to people that were at school with him. Talk to people at UCLA, going all the way back to the days when he contemplated quitting. I talked to people at Miami. Talk to his family. I want to talk to him. He's going to say all the right things because he's looking to get paid. He wants to be a 1st round pick. He's going to be coached up on how to answer the questions about his love for the game. But I'm going to talk to the people around him to really go back to high school. If I'm spending a 1st round pick, I'm doing my due diligence on Jaelan Phillips. I need to know, what am I getting myself into? Were there ever thoughts of this guy seeming like he was disinterested in high school? Oh, there was? All right, cool. I'm not taking him. Like, I need that information. So, he's interesting. I think he comps to Carlos Dunlap. I remember Dunlap coming out of Florida, and I remember not being overly blown away by Carlos Dunlap, but knowing that there was talent there and seeing the versatility from him. And then Carlos Dunlap just really having a tremendous career to this point. I think Carlos Dunlap has been one of the more underrated pass rushers of the past decade. When you look at his numbers, you don't apply those numbers to Carlos Dunlap. You think those numbers are reserved for a much better, more flashy pass rusher, but Carlos Dunlap has just been a model of consistency over the years in Cincinnati. So I see a lot of Jaelan Phillips or Carlos Dunlap and Jaelan Phillips. I think there's a little bit more finesse to Jaelan Phillips' game than Carlos Dunlap, but I think there are a lot of similarities between the two. So Jaelan Phillips for me is my number one pass rusher.